Hi, my friends. Welcome back. Today we're going to be learning about the life cycle of a butterfly versus a frog. And we're going to be using this really cool tool known as a Venn diagram to compare their life cycles. Let's head on to the next slide. What are we learning today? We are learning about Venn diagrams. And what we're going to be learning is how we make them and what they're used for. And then we're going to be comparing and contrasting. So what's alike and what's different about the life cycle of a frog and a butterfly. And then you as students are going to be creating your own Venn diagram comparing the life cycles. Let's go to the next slide. What we need for this lesson. So first and most important thing is you're going to turn on your listening eyes and your listening ears. So let's do that. The best you can. Make sure you're nice and focused for this lesson. So next thing you're going to need is your science notebook. So go ahead and take that out right now. And then you're going to need a pencil as well. Go ahead and take that out. And then you're going to need a Chromebook or personal device for learning. So go ahead and take that out too. All right, does everyone have that out? Awesome. So these are the learning standards. This is what kind of makes sure that I, as your teacher, am teaching you everything that you need to know so that when you go into the big adult world and you get an adult job, you have all the knowledge you need to be successful in that. So these are some science standards. So the first standard is saying that you understand that all organisms, like humans, have a life cycle. So birth, and then childhood, adulthood, when you're a teenager, those are all forms of our life cycle and how we become adults. And even, unfortunately, death is a part of the life cycle. Our second standard that we're going to be addressing today is we're going to observe familiar plants and animals. So I think everyone's seen a frog, right? And I think everybody's seen a butterfly when we're at recess. You see them flying by, or you've seen a moth late at night. If you have your flashlight on, you'll see a lot of moths. And we're going to describe what they need to survive. So where does this animal live? What does it eat? And how does it change throughout its life cycle? That's our goal of today. You guys don't really have to worry about these standards too much. It's more so for Mr. Curcio, but I think it's important that as students, you know what you're learning and why you're learning it. So I'm going to give some directions for our first half of the slide. We're going to start out with Venn diagrams. We're going to do a little bit of background on those, and then we're going to go into the life cycle of a frog, and then we're going to learn about the life cycle of a butterfly. And from there, we're going to compare and contrast the two, and we're going to make our own Venn diagrams. I'm so excited, guys. So let's start out with our directions. So first, we're going to play the videos. On each slide, we're going to watch a YouTube video. You're going to hit play just like you do when you're at home on your iPad. You're going to hit play, and then there's a review after every slide too. So you're going to write those notes that Mr. Curcio wrote for you right in your notebook, just so you have them for later. So if we have a test, I know a test scary, but we have the notes to prepare for it. Okay, so this is our background video on Venn diagrams. I'm going to hit play, and you guys are too, and we're going to watch it together, okay?
Hello, my name is Mrs. Harkos. Today I am excited to teach you all about Venn diagrams and how they work. Are you ready? Let's go!
Let's go, guys!
Now you might be thinking to yourself, what are Venn diagrams? Well, simply put, Venn diagrams are circles that overlap to show how things are alike or to show how things are different.
To start off, you want to have at least two topics. For this example, I'm using apples and bananas. When I think about apples, I know that they are fruit, they are sweet, they are hard, they are round. When I think about bananas, I know that they are also fruit and sweet, but they are soft and they are long. Now I'm going to organize my information. To organize it, I need to draw two circles that overlap. The overlapping part is really important in a Venn diagram. If they don't overlap, you don't have a Venn diagram. Now we're going to start filling out our circles. My left circle is all about apples. My right circle is all about bananas. But notice that overlapping part of the circle? Those are the things that both apples and bananas have in common? So they're both fruit, they're both sweet, they can both be green, they can both be yellow. Now that we've filled out the middle part of our circles, let's think about the things that apples and bananas don't have in common. For example, apples are hard, bananas are soft. Apples are round, bananas are long. Apples are red. They can also be green or yellow like a banana, so that would go in the middle part. Okay, let's try one more. Car and bike. Cars and bikes are both used for transportation, so we would put that word in the middle. A car has 4 wheels, we put on the car side, whereas a bike has 2 wheels, we put that on the bike side. Car has a steering wheel, bike has a handlebar. Now, for the purpose of this video, we are introducing the basic concept of a Venn diagram using 2 circles. But did you know that a Venn diagram can use more than 2 circles? For example, if you wanted to make a fancy Venn diagram with 3.
My friends, I just want to take a minute to pause and say that we're only going to be making Venn diagrams that have 2 circles for this lesson. But let's learn about how we can use more circles.
Things or 3 circles, you would make sure that they all overlapped, and then the part in the middle is the thing that all 3 circles have in common. Now you might still be wondering, why are they called Venn diagrams? They were actually introduced in 1880 by John Venn, who's a mathematician and philosopher. He actually didn't call them Venn diagrams, but they were named after him. Thanks for watching, and remember, Venn diagrams are 2 or more circles that overlap to show how things are alike or to show how things are different.
Well, that was a great video, guys, to give us a little bit of background knowledge on what Venn diagrams are. So, as she said at the end of the video, Venn diagrams are 2 circles that overlap in the middle that tell us how things are different, and in the middle, it tells us how things are the same. Let's review this video, though. Sorry, friends, sometimes it takes a little while with the YouTube videos. A Venn diagram is 2 circles that overlap to show how ideas are similar and different. So, the video used apples and bananas. I really like apples and bananas, so I'm going to continue with that analogy. An analogy is just an example of something. So, in my left circle, I'm going to put apples on the top. So I have my 2 topics. Now I'm going to think about, and bananas on the right one. Now I'm going to think about, okay, how are they the same? Apples are hard and crunchy. Bananas are soft. So I would put hard and crunchy in the apple circle, and I put soft in the banana circle. And then in the middle, oh, apples and bananas are both fruits. Oh, but wait, but apples can sometimes be sour. But apples can also sometimes be sweet, and bananas are sweet. So apples and bananas are sweet would go in the middle. But apples that are sour would go only in the apple circle. So on this review page, I've written 5 facts that are important when we're learning about Venn diagrams. So as I said, we're drawing 2 circles. We're making sure they're overlapping in the middle. Otherwise, we're not going to have anywhere to put what's similar between our 2 topics. And 1 circle represents each side. And where the circles overlap is what the 2 items have in common. So this is just an example of practice. So as you can see, I have topic A. Topic A is just our example. It's not a real one. And I have the differences right here. So as we were talking about before, our apples and bananas. Apples would go over here, and bananas would go right here. And I'd write all my facts about bananas here and all my facts about apples here. And what's the same goes in the middle. So that's a Venn diagram, my friends. I know it's a lot to take in right now, but as we practice with it more, you'll become very familiar. So let's get back to the life cycle of a butterfly versus the life cycle of a frog. We can use a Venn diagram to compare. So compare, that's a big word right there. We can use Venn diagram to compare what's alike. So compare means alike, and we can contrast. Contrast means different. The life cycle of a frog and a butterfly. So we're going to use a Venn diagram to do that. So we're going to watch a quick video about the life cycle of a frog. Remember, Miss Michaela or Mr. Curcio has notes at the end of the video. So as I was saying, my friends, I would appreciate if we could take some notes on our own, but if you don't get a chance to, there will be some at the end of the video. So let's watch the life cycle of a frog. And before I continue, my friends, I just want to let you know that with any of these YouTube videos, Mr. Curcio is going to do it now, you can turn on the captions, which just gives you the text of what the person is saying in the video.
Oh, we are sorry, Mr. Frog. My cat wasn't aware that those are your eggs. Phew. Come out, little kitty. Mr. Frog has gone. Hey, friends. I'm sure, just like this kitty, you must be curious to know more about frogs' eggs and their life. So, let's hop on into the tiny world of these amphibians and learn about the life cycle of a frog. Zoom in! It all starts with a female frog laying hundreds of eggs, generally in a pond that vary in size, colors and shapes with different species. These eggs float on the surface of the water, coated with a jelly-like substance that acts as a protective layer. But despite that, most of the eggs get destroyed due to various natural calamities like rain and wind, due to which only a few get fertilized. This mass of fertilized egg in the jelly is known as spawn. After a few days, a baby frog known as tadpole hatches out of the egg that looks more like a fish than a frog and feeds on the yolk of the egg from which it came out. Well, that's one hungry fella. As time passes by, tadpoles develop external gills that help them breathe under the water. Their tails begin to elongate and fins also develop. They spend their time eating plants and algae as they continue to grow for several weeks. After a few weeks, their external gills begin to disappear and hind limbs start to appear. Then, after a few more weeks, the tadpole begins to look somewhat like a frog as it turns into a froglet. And during this stage, they develop forelimbs and lungs for breathing outside water. And on the final stage, their tail becomes smaller and smaller and eventually disappears. Then it hops right out of the water and onto dry land for the first time, where it enters the adult stage in the next couple of years to lay their eggs, and more tadpoles hatch as the cycle continues. Trivia time! Did you know that the tadpole uses the nutrients stored in its tail as food? So until its tail is completely gone, it doesn't need anything else to eat in its journey of becoming a young frog. It's question time! So friends, today's question is, what do you call a baby frog? Do write
My friends, what do we call a baby frog? Does anyone know? Write it down in your science notebook if you know.
in your answer in the comment section below and hit the like button to be a part of the Peekaboo family. And before you go, here are the winners. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. And until next time, it's me, Dr. Binocs, zooming out. Never mind. Hey kids, you liked my video?
Well, thank you, Doctor, for helping us learn about the life cycle of a frog. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Let's go over some notes about the life cycle of a frog.
Didn't
So just to review, so like humans, the frogs have a mom who gives birth to them, but instead of being born as a baby, they're born as eggs. So these eggs then become tadpoles, which were those fish-looking things that we saw in the video. And they have gills, and they live in water, and they eat algae. And then eventually they eat their own egg. Could you guys believe that? That tadpoles eat their own eggs? I'll tell you what, butterflies do the same thing. So as tadpoles grow, their gills begin to disappear, and they grow adult limbs. So first we saw their leg limbs, and then they grew their front limbs. So they started to look more and more as a frog, right, as they grew their arms and their legs. So a tadpole goes from, it becomes a froglet. It looks more like a frog now. And in the froglet stage, the frog develops more limbs and lungs, so it helps it breathe. And it also loses its tail, which we saw it eats its tail at the end, right? Isn't that kind of scary too, because it has all the nutrients? And then the frog hops out of water using its newly developed limbs and becomes a full adult frog. And the adult frog continues that cycle by laying the eggs. So it's a continuous cycle that we see going on here. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Oops, sorry, I went too far ahead, my friends. So I just have a little graphic because I love to see things on a visual scale too. So here we see that they have the frog eggs. I have a highlighter tool or spotlight tool that's really cool. Oh, sorry guys. So as we can see, there's an egg here, and then it becomes a tadpole, and then the tadpole becomes a froglet, and then that froglet becomes a full adult frog that goes ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. So that's really cool, right, my friends? Okay, so now we're going to go to the life cycle of a butterfly, and we're going to do the same thing as we did for the life cycle of a frog. We're going to watch a video, we're going to take notes, and then you're going to copy those notes into your science notebook. I hope you copied the notes of the life cycle of a frog into your science notebook. If not, no worries. You can always come back to this video and record them in your notebook at a later time.
Our topic for today is life cycle of a butterfly. A butterfly lays eggs on the leaves of a plant. These eggs hatch, and young ones called larvae, or caterpillars, come out of the eggs. The caterpillar first feeds on the eggshell from which it is born. It then starts feeding on the leaves and starts to grow. The caterpillar sheds its skin several times so that it can grow. Once the caterpillar is big enough, it stops eating. It then forms a protective layer around itself. This stage is called chrysalis. In this stage, the caterpillar is now called pupa. The pupa remains motionless in the chrysalis. Inside the chrysalis, the pupa undergoes a series of changes. After about 15 days, a beautiful adult butterfly emerges out of the chrysalis. When the butterfly comes out, its wings are small and wet. The butterfly pumps fluids into its wings to make them strong and to expand. After a few hours, the wings become strong enough and the butterfly is able to fly. These series of changes in the life cycle of a butterfly is called.
So that was our video on the life cycle of a butterfly, and at the end it got cut off, but the life cycle is known as metamorphosis for a butterfly. So let's go to our next slide and review some notes. Before we do the notes though, I just want to review real quick the cycle. So again, it starts as an egg, and then we see it develop into a caterpillar, and just like the frog, it eats its own shell that it was born in. And then once the caterpillar eats enough, it gets all its yummies in its belly, it becomes a chrysalis, and we see it hang upside down from the branch. Excuse me, friends. And then after it's spent about 15 days in its chrysalis, an adult butterfly emerges, and its wings are all wet, and the butterfly works really hard to pump fluids into its wings. And then we see the adult butterfly form, which is the butterfly that's able to spread its wings and fly super far, just like we learned about in previous lessons. So here's the review that we're going to put in our notes. So take out your science notebook and we're going to write all these down. So a butterfly lays eggs on a plant. Unlike a frog, it doesn't lay eggs in the water. The eggs hatch and out comes a caterpillar. The caterpillar eats its eggshell. The caterpillar sheds its skin several times so it can grow. Can you think of any other animals that shed its skin? I'm thinking of a lizard or a snake. So I never knew a caterpillar could do that too. Isn't that so cool, guys? Caterpillars eats leaves and it stops eating when it's big enough. So once the caterpillar's big enough, we see it form that protective layer known as the chrysalis, and that's when we see it hang upside down, just like it was in the video. Wasn't that silly? Well, that's what caterpillars actually do. They hang upside down and they stay there for about 15 days. And it's undergoing changes. And while it's undergoing changes, it's known as a pupa. So the caterpillar inside the chrysalis is known as a pupa. And when that pupa's all done growing after 15 days, out comes the butterfly. And that's when we see the butterfly that has wet wings. It's not super strong. It can't really fly yet. But then it pumps all the fluids. It works super hard. It pumps all those fluids. And then it can fly all over. And as we learned in the National Geographic video, it can fly for thousands of miles. Can you guys believe that? And this process is known as metamorphosis. So the life cycle of a butterfly is called metamorphosis. So everyone take a second, copy those into your notes. And if you don't get everything down, remember you can come back to this video later, not a problem. So I'm going to give us like 30 seconds to copy those. Okay, my friends, if you didn't get them down, don't worry, we can come back to it later. Sorry, my friends, it keeps going ahead. Okay, so now let's get back to the Venn diagram. You guys remember when we talked about that earlier? The two circles that overlap and in the middle is things that are similar. Let's think about some things that are similar and different between a butterfly. Copy them down into your notebook. Right now I'm thinking, okay, both have eggs. Both eat the shells of their eggs. But a butterfly has wings and a frog doesn't. And a frog lives in both water and land. Only butterflies live in land. So write those ideas down in your notebook. It's Venn diagram time. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out a clean sheet of paper in our science notebook. You don't have to rip it out or anything. Just flip your page to a clean sheet. And then we're going to draw two overlapping circles, just like we talked about, to make our Venn diagram. We're going to draw two overlapping circles. You're going to title one circle, Life Cycle of a Butterfly. And then on the other side, you're going to title it, the second circle, Life Cycle of a Frog. And in the middle, it's going to be same. You can just write same, you don't have to title it. Your choice. On the side, that's a life cycle of the butterfly. I want you to write down things that only happen in the life cycle of a butterfly. And on the right, you're going to write down things that only happen in the life cycle of a frog. I have an example for you on the next slide if this isn't really making sense, so I can help you out. But I want you guys to try it on your own first. And you're going to put what happens in both life cycles. So like I said, eggs, they both come from, their parents lay the eggs. They both eat their shells, things that are similar in their life cycles. So I'm going to show you my example. After you've written yours down, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Draw your two circles, title your two circles, and write down at least one idea. I'm going to give you a minute actually to do this. So take a minute. Clean sheet of paper in our science notebook. We're drawing our Venn diagram, our two overlapping circles. We're titling it, and we're writing at least one idea for each circle. So we're going to take a minute to do that. And if you don't finish in a minute, do not stress. We're going to have plenty of time. Okay, my friends, that was the timer, so we're going to go ahead to the next slide. So this is Mr. Curcio's example of a Venn diagram. So as you can see, I have my titles, I have my overlapping circles, and I have what's the same in the middle. So to start with the life cycle of a butterfly, they begin life on a leaf. They begin life as caterpillars, and they eat leaves when they're caterpillars. And then those caterpillars grow into a chrysalis, so that process that we talked about. And after the chrysalis, they go through metamorphosis, right? Like we talked about, and they grow wings. And then those wings allow them to fly. And then I started thinking of, okay, what's their habitat? Do they live in land or water? Oh, they live in land. Okay, I'm going to put that on the butterfly side. And then if you guys remember from our Read Works article, butterflies are really important native pollinators. It's really important for the environment, and butterflies can kind of let you know how healthy is the environment around us. There are a lot of butterflies flying around, and there are a lot of insects pollinating the plants to make sure that we have lots of plants for oxygen and all that good stuff. So that now I'm going to touch on the life cycle of a frog. So frogs have their eggs laid in water, and as the video talks about, not all those eggs survive, right? Because of things like rain, even though they have that protective jelly around them, rain, other animals eat them. So frogs begin as tadpoles, and while they're tadpoles, they eat the shells that they were born in, and then they also eat algae. And then after they've eaten enough algae, they become froglets, and froglets have tails and gills. Butterflies don't have tails, right? I've never seen a butterfly with a tail. I don't know about you. And then they live mostly in water when they're young, right? Unlike butterflies, butterflies really don't go in the water. It's not good for their wings. And then when they're froglets, or more so adults, they jump out of the water and they live on land. And the frogs that live on land, they've grown lungs and legs. Butterflies don't have legs, right? No, they have little antennas that help them move around. So then, after we've done everything that's different for the life cycles, what's similar? Well, both begin as eggs. They have 4 life cycles. They both look very different when they are adults. A tadpole does not look like a frog, right? You wouldn't even think those are the same animal. And you wouldn't think that a caterpillar can become a butterfly. And they both change their habitat as they grow. Just because a butterfly, they stay on the leaves, right? But then they're able to fly more. They're able to go to different forests as they grow their wings. And a frog starts in the water, and then they hop on out, right, as they become adults. So again, if you guys need notes or ideas, just refer back to this video whenever. So our conclusion, what did we learn today? I always like to wrap up our lessons. We learned what a Venn diagram is. We learned how to make a Venn diagram, right? Our 2 overlapping circles with something similar in the middle. We learned about the life cycle of a butterfly and a frog and how they're different. If anything stuck out to you in this lesson, or you thought, oh, I didn't know that before, and Mr. Curcio, she showed me some new information, go ahead and write that down in your science notebook. I'd love to hear your ideas when we're in class. As always, thank you guys so much for listening and for putting your thinking caps on and working with me. I can't wait to talk more about the life cycle of a butterfly and a frog, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!